Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolutely fascinating science of venom, and we're going to flip basically everything you thought you knew about what makes an animal truly deadly. We've got some wild data to unpack, so let's just jump right in. So when I ask you to name the deadliest creature on Earth, what pops into your head? You're probably picturing a massive great white shark, right? Or maybe a lurking saltwater crocodile, or some giant snake uncoiling in the jungle. It is totally human nature to fear the big, the toothy, and the aggressive. But to really get a grip on lethality, we actually need to look away from the giants and zoom way, way down to the ocean's almost invisible micro-monsters. It took 3 people, 97 years, in a jar labeled Australia. Now, this highly specific, kind of eerie quote perfectly teases the origin story of our very first creature. It's an awesome reminder that the most dangerous things out there, they often come in the most unassuming packages. Moving into Section 1, Tiny but Terrifying. Let's look at the ocean's micro-monsters. Check out this marine animal. It looks totally harmless, but it packs a horrifyingly lethal punch. The greater blue-ringed octopus is literally the size of a golf ball when fully grown. You could easily hold it in the palm of your hand. It actually likes to hide out in discarded soda cans on the ocean floor. But listen, do not let its tiny size or those beautiful iridescent blue rings fool you. Its saliva is loaded with tetrodotoxin. That is a neurotoxin so incredibly potent that a single bite causes rapid respiratory arrest. We're talking enough venom to kill 26 adults in a matter of minutes. And the truly terrifying part? There's absolutely zero known antivenom for it. But here's the wild part. Despite that extreme toxicity, despite literally carrying the biological weaponry to wipe out a small crowd, there are only 3 confirmed human deaths worldwide from this octopus. Ever. Why? Well, because they just aren't aggressive. They typically only bite when they are completely provoked, like being carelessly handled or stepped on. So the sheer capability for mass destruction is there, but the behavior just isn't. Another tiny terror sharing those same waters is the cone snail. Yeah, a snail. Specifically, the geography and textile cone snails, which are the 2 that have actually killed humans. To put their toxicity into perspective for you, the venom from just one of these cone snails has the hypothesized potential to kill up to 700 people. 700! Naive divers will often pick up their gorgeous shells as souvenirs, completely unaware they're essentially holding a slow-moving biological weapon. That brings us to Section 2, the anatomy of venom, focusing on these wild delivery systems. The mechanical process these snails use to deliver their lethal payload is highly evolved and, honestly, pretty terrifying. The cone snail essentially acts like a microscopic biological submarine. It doesn't just bite you. First, it senses its prey using an appendage called a siphon. Then, it extends a proboscis. And finally, it utilizes a highly modified radular tooth as a disposable, venom-coated hypodermic harpoon. It fires the start right into its prey, injecting a rapidly paralyzing cocktail. And get this, the snail keeps about 20 of these harpoons in various stages of development at any given time, just constantly locked and loaded. What really makes this venom so incredibly successful is its sheer adaptability. Some cone snail species actually switch up their diets as they grow up. They start out eating worms when they're young, and then shift to fish when they get bigger. And as they make this dietary shift, their venom cocktail rapidly changes to perfectly match the new prey. This is driven by extensive gene duplication, which basically means cone snail venom peptides are evolving twice as fast as almost any other known protein in the animal kingdom. Because of that lightning-fast evolution, it's estimated there are over 100,000 different bioactive compounds, which we call conotoxins, distributed among the cone snails of the world. It is a level of chemical complexity that makes creating a universal antivenom virtually impossible. Now, before we move forward, it is absolutely crucial we clarify a super common misunderstanding because people mix these terms up all the time. Venomous applies to a creature that actively injects its toxins into you, like that harpoon from our cone snail. Poisonous, on the other hand, means the creature contains a toxic substance that is harmful if you eat it or touch it. Basically, a poisonous animal is largely harmless to you unless you decide to make it a snack. All right, Section 3, healing with deadly toxins, going from poison to medicine. Nature loves a good paradox. Let's pivot just a bit, because the very same paralyzing venoms from these micro-monsters might actually end up saving your life one day. Because these toxins are so unbelievably specialized at targeting very specific pain and neuromuscular receptors in their prey, scientists realize they can actually be used as incredibly precise medicines. For example, a conotoxin from the Conus migus snail has already been translated into an FDA-approved painkiller called Prialt. Researchers are also actively looking into these exact same venoms for treating Parkinson's disease and even for cardioprotective effects. The deadliest poisons are literally becoming our most targeted cures. Now for Section 4, the lethality illusion, and how we actually measure venom. So how do scientists actually rank these venomous animals against each other, and why might the resulting data be completely deceiving us? Well, venom strength is traditionally measured using the LD50 test, which stands for lethal dose 50%. It calculates the exact amount of a substance required to kill half the animals in a test group, which is almost always mice. But this test gets heavily criticized by experts as being pretty crude. Why? Because, well, a human is not a lab mouse. Testing on mice is just not a reliably accurate way to estimate human danger or predict how our unique biology is going to react. And this brilliantly illustrates the flaw in that whole way of thinking. Notice the inland taipan here. It has the most toxic venom of any land snake according to the LD50 scale. A single bite yields a maximum of 110 milligrams of venom. That one bite contains enough sheer toxicity to kill 250,000 mice, or theoretically, over 100 adult humans. By the chemical numbers alone, it is an absolute nightmare. But here is the reality check. The inland taipan lives entirely isolated from people in the remote, super arid regions of Australia. Plus, it's generally a really shy snake. Because of this complete lack of proximity to us and its docile behavior, the so-called most venomous land snake in the world has caused exactly 0 documented human deaths. Literally 0. Which brings us to Section 5, the true killers, and the actual reality of deadliness. This brings us to a vital shift in perspective. We need to move away from the most venomous creatures in a laboratory setting to the actual deadliest animals on planet Earth. We really have to separate these two concepts. An animal isn't functionally dangerous to you just because it has a super low LD50 score in a test tube. True functional danger to humanity comes from two main factors: sheer proximity to human populations and the ability to act as a vector for disease. When we look at the raw data of actual human fatalities, the scale completely flips upside down. The tiny mosquito towers over absolutely everything else on Earth. By carrying and transmitting diseases like malaria and West Nile virus, mosquitoes kill anywhere from 725,000 to over 1 million people every single year. Compare that to the terrifying crocodile, which accounts for about 1,000 deaths. I mean, the numbers aren't even in the same universe. The real threats? They aren't lurking in the deep ocean or the deep outback. They're right in your backyard or your local river. Dogs, primarily by transmitting rabies, account for about 35,000 deaths. Biting insects like assassin bugs and chitse flies kill tens of thousands. And incredibly, the freshwater snail, by carrying parasitic tropical diseases, kills up to 200,000 people annually. A simple, unassuming river snail kills orders of magnitude more humans than sharks, crocodiles, and venomous snakes ever will. To wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with a final thought to really challenge your innate fears. Look, we are biologically wired to fear the sharp teeth, the fast strike, and the potent venom. But the data shows us a completely different reality. The true reapers of the animal kingdom don't use fangs or claws. They use microscopic parasites and sheer numbers. So why are we terrified of a rare snake we will likely never see when the absolutely deadliest animal on Earth is buzzing right next to our ear? Keep questioning your assumptions and stay curious about this incredible, paradoxical natural world. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.